Welcome to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista, probably the most entertaining marketing podcast you're going to put in your ear. I'm Vin, the associate producer here at Starista. The goal of this podcast is to chat with industry leaders and get their take on the current challenges of the market. And we'll have a little fun along the way. In today's episode, Vincent and Ajay chat with Sonia Oblitey, Global Marketing Director at OkCupid. Sonia discusses how the dating app can be used to approach romance in a slow and meaningful way, and how the inclusiveness of OkCupid makes the app appealing for all around the world. AJ looks 12 years younger, and Vincent is a fan of clean-cut looks. Give it a listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Starista's The Marketing Stir. I, of course, am your happy host, Vincent Petrofessa, the Vice President of B2B Products and Partnerships here at Stirista, and still reigning Interim General Manager. By the time this comes out in January or so, I probably won't have that title anymore. They're always trying to take titles away from me here. I'm kidding. I love it here. And I love you, the audience. Before I get started, let's talk about who Stirista is. Stirista, we are a marketing technology company. We focus on identity. We have our own business-to-consumer database, business-to-business database. We work with clients to target those databases, to get new customers, to get their brand out there. We own our own DSP. We can do display. We can do connected TV. All those people at home, do some connected TV. Email me at vincent@stirista.com. That is how confident I am in our services. I just gave you my email address. The other person I'm confident in, he is clean shaven today, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just listening to us, go to the YouTube feed of this. My co-host, ladies and gentlemen, clean shaven, looks 10 years younger, Mr. Ajay Gupta. What's going on, Ajay?
Vincent, some people are saying 12 years younger, but I'll take 10 years too.
Yeah, well, people have voices inside their heads, Ajay. That's clearly you saying that, but I don't think it's been years since I've seen you clean shaven, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was the first time during the pandemic. I kind of let it go for about 3 weeks. So I decided I'm going to just go for a clean look for a couple of days before it grows back.
Nice. And a haircut, you know, I'm coming down to San Antonio. That's the first thing I bother you about.
Oh yeah, no, I'll be ready. I've had enough harassment from New Yorkers. So
New Yorkers, we keep it clean. You can see, always clean. I get a haircut every 10 days. That's what keeps me fresh. Some people say it's a complex. I just say I'm trying to be, keeping it fresh. But I can't wait to be in San Antonio, Texas. I don't think anyone's ever uttered those words before, but I apparently just did. We're going to be down there visiting the team, kind of a year-end get-together bash, if you will. It's going to be fun. Are you excited?
Yeah, it's I guess, especially because of the pandemic, we didn't do anything last year except our virtual summit, but this year we're doing that, plus quite a few other events. So my hope is things go smoothly, and I think it'll be great to have everybody down together, and for 2 days, we'll have a blast.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the summit. This next amazing guest will be speaking on the summit. By the time you hear this episode, she would have already been on the summit, and she nailed it. She did an amazing job, just like she's going to do on this podcast. Now, this is a first it's a first for her. It's her first podcast, she said. Although she's natural, I find that hard to believe. Also, it's the first organization of its kind that we've had on the podcast. Now, I'm familiar with dating apps. I'm not on them. I'm a happily married man. I'm not on them. You hear, my wife doesn't listen to the podcast, but it is the dating application I hear about all the time. This is the one I'm on. This is the one I'm on. It's OkCupid, ladies and gentlemen. And we have a very special guest calling in, joining us from DC. Ladies and gentlemen, the Global Marketing Director of OkCupid. Please, a warm marketing stir welcome for Sonia Oblitey. What's going on, Sonia?
Hi, how you doing? I'm so happy to be here. It's exciting.
We're so happy to have you. I have so many questions about what you do in OkCupid. First of all, we have a lot of people at Stirista who could use OkCupid's help. We've got a lot of people. Brian Gold comes to mind. Man, that he just has such a hard time meeting women. Meeting us, maybe he'll listen. He does listen to the podcast. So, no, I'm kidding. He's actually in a relationship now, but we have so many people who are out there listening, and this is a great topic because we want to hear all about what's been happening, because dating during the pandemic, that's a whole other ballgame. We're going to get to that. But Sonia, for people who have not heard of OkCupid, tell us a little bit about OkCupid and your role. I really want to dig into that global aspect of your role, because then that opens up so many more questions. We're going to have fun, but just a quick intro to OkCupid and your role.
Yeah, sure. So OkCupid is one of the first dating apps to launch in the space back in 2004, before even the advent of the mobile phone. So we've been doing this matchmaking game for a while. And OkCupid, what makes us unique from our competitors is that we ask you lots and lots of questions so you can have a really complete and robust profile. So it's more than just your surface swipe right, swipe left. They're really about getting to know you and then matching you with somebody that we think that you would have a great conversation with that could lead to who knows what else. And we're also the first dating app to launch pronouns. We're the first dating app to give over 22 gender options and 20 orientations to select from. So we consider ourselves to be the most inclusive dating app of all our competitors. And we're part of Match Group. So I'm a part of really good company, and Match Group owns Tinder and Hinge and Plenty of Fish, a lot of other great dating apps that I consider to be my sister brands as well. And we learn a lot from each other. But what makes OkCupid really unique is that we consider ourselves to be exclusively inclusive, because no matter who you are or what you're looking for, we got you.
I like that. I like exclusively inclusive. That's awesome. And Sonia, walk us through, global marketing director. Talk to us about some of your roles, what your day-to-day looks like there, some of the regions that you tackle.
Yeah, I have such a really fascinating role, because I really need to know about love around the world and in the markets that we focus on. So when we say global, we really just focus on the markets where we have the best product fit, because I'm sure, as you know, love is cultural. So not all markets are open to online dating yet. So, but we focus where we know we have great product fit. So my day to day, one of our big markets is Israel. And it's like this morning, I was on the line with my Israeli agency and my local rep, just talking about what our plans are for new emerging channels like TikTok. How are we going to capture a younger audience, And that's one conversation I had today. And then I'm going into Germany, because we also have a great team in Germany. And I'm thinking, we're talking about out of home and what cities are we going to tackle, and what's the messaging and the best way to market there. And then we'll go over to Turkey, and Turkey's talking about inflation. So we're thinking about what's our pricing strategy in Turkey, and then India. So it's a great role. I wear many hats, but it's all about, leveraging our core message in all of these markets, and then also knowing how these markets date and what makes OkCupid so interesting to that consumer. Why OkCupid in Israel and India and Germany, and that's the approach that we take when we work on our market entry strategies. Like, well, why OkCupid? It's one of the very important questions that we ask ourselves is, will it fit? Will it work in that market? So, yeah.
And I love that. You probably also, you never have any free time, because it seems like you're on calls in different regions all day long, right?
All day long. I was hip to Zoom before the pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 9 a.m. I know 9 a.m., 9 p.m. calls. Like, my wife works with some teams in Japan. It's always like
we have a team in Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia is one of our.
Sonia, we also love to ask this question of all of our guests, because there's a lot of people listening out there who are in marketing, thinking about getting into marketing. How did you get into this crazy world we call marketing?
Yeah, so I was actually a marketing major. undergrad at Penn State. So I was studying marketing, but I actually didn't start my career in marketing. I started my career in the cosmetic buying office at Lord & Taylor, New York City, where I had the opportunity to be sold to by many different brands, from Estee Lauder to Lancome to the L'Oreal's, like big names, small names. And I thought to myself, like, I want to be that person. I want to be the one who is working on campaigns, launching them and presenting them to whether retailers or to the world. And in order to make that transition, I went to FIT and I had and I received a master's in cosmetics and fragrance marketing. And it was a really unique program. It's actually, I think I was the 4th or 5th class, and it's still continuing till this day. But it was a great program that allowed me to make many contacts and also just like build my expertise in cosmetic marketing. So after that, after I graduated, I joined Estee Lauder, and I was in global marketing for years, marketing fragrances, and did some more cosmetic marketing work after that. And then about 2.5 years ago, I entered the world of dating and tech, and I have been having so much fun since. It's completely different than cosmetic marketing, but all the less we're still selling or marketing hope. You know, we're tapping into emotion, making love connections, you know, and it's a different way of marketing, but it's using, I would say between dating app and cosmetic marketing. With dating, I'm not selling a product per se. You know, I don't have to wait for a product launch or really talk to R&D and development. You know, everything is in your mobile app. So we're not necessarily timed to a lot of like product launches unless it's like a product launch in the app. So that's where I would say is some of the difference. And I'm obviously not selling to retailers like I was before. You know, we don't have a store. But that's how I got into marketing. Yeah.
Sonia, so I got married and started dating before the app world really took off. So, but as an outsider, there's still a lot of competition in terms of what I hear my single friends using and switching between apps. What in terms of kind of marketing strategy, what separates you from all of the other apps that consumers have access to now?
Yeah, you know what, OkCupid, what really separates us is that we ask questions. We ask questions, whether they're questions about politics, and we can, you know, get really into the psyche of like what it is that's important to you from your political aspect, to if you like ketchup on your fries, to whether you're a supporter of Planned Parenthood or pro-rights. Like, we match you on what really matters to you. And that's something that OkCupid prides themselves on, is that we really want to get to know who you are and try to, if not spark a love connection, at least have you connected to plenty of people. So that's the difference with OkCupid and all the other dating apps, I would say, is that, you know, our positioning is matching you on what matters. You know, so whatever matters to you, you will definitely be able to discover somebody who shares the same. And then also just as I mentioned before, we have the sexual orientation options, the gender orientation options, and we launched more pronouns, and we were the first to do so. So we've been inclusive before it was a thing. You know, we've always tried to include everybody. And recently, not sure, and I know, Vince, maybe you've seen our recent ad campaign on the subways for every single person, where we were, I mean, we struck up controversy because our advertising was so provocative. But that's OkCupid, you know, like we want to be bold, we want to be provocative, and we want to have people who kind of piss people off in a way. Where if you want to be exclusive, this isn't your brand. You know, this is for people who want to make sure that everybody feels welcome. So that's why the ad campaign was for every vegan, for every vaxxer, for every poly. It's really for everyone.
That's awesome, Sonia. We completely support your mission here at Stirista. So kind of in terms of the marketing strategy, what is working for you? What's kind of in a broad sense? What are some of the channels that you market and advertise on?
Yeah, I mean, we're really in, like, I guess you would say, like, your traditional channels. I think what works for OkCupid is that, especially for me in my global marketing, is, you know, I don't have the biggest budget. So we do a lot of acquisition marketing, and then we also do a lot of leveraging with like content and content creators. So TikTok right now is for us something that we're really exploring, because it's just, for a dating app, it can be so organic. You know, the going on a date, the filling in your profile, the telling of a story. You know, I find that any sort of way to have an organic message works best for us. So leveraging a success story, people always want to see, like, well, did it really work? Who's really meeting on here, you know? So, and like, that's another channel, like between your TikToks and your Instagram and any sort of these social channels, that you can really like showcase these success stories, but also have like great funny content and engaging content that just allows us to showcase our unique properties of the app, you know, but do it in a really cost-effective way. That's one channel that works really well for us. And then OkCupid, because we have such bold creative, out of home works for us pretty well. And out of home, and not out of home nationally, like we're really focused on like what cities we know that we have our biggest users or user base. So like we're more metropolitan, like we're not into small town like USA. So like we'll focus on like the big cities like New York and LA, Chicago.
And Sonia, I have seen those subway ads, and for OkCupid, that's kind of where I knew about. I mean, I again heard friends talking about it. That's the app they talk about the most. I live in New York City, and I see the ads, and I'm like, these are hilarious. These are great. They're inclusive. You see that, but I also think they're very funny. The ads. It's kind of so that it definitely gets your attention. Was all that through the match group? Is that intentional? Like, hey, we really need to separate ourselves. We want our ads to be provocative. We want them to be funny. Is that kind of a result of having, well, we are different because we have such, you know, inclusivity that, you know, well, we should make this like that.
It's the latter. It's like knowing that we are inclusive and we have, our mission is to showcase that. That's really where the provocative nature of the ads come from. But interestingly enough, in my global role, that ad does not work globally. So you wouldn't necessarily see that in Israel. You certainly wouldn't see it in Turkey or in India. So the question is, how do you then communicate your brand message and still be provocative, but not edgy? You know, so what we've done in Turkey, for instance, is Turkey and India, Indonesia, these markets are more, they definitely are a more serious, intent dating market. But the way we kind of flip the dating culture on its head is like, you know, you are going to be the one to control your destiny and who you meet. Instead of matched by your mom or by a matchmaker, you're actually going to go on a dating app and you're going to find someone who's right for you. So we launched a campaign in India called Find My Kind. We launched a campaign in Turkey, someone just for you or someone just like you. So it still is provocative and it still is kind of shocking in a way because it's not common yet. So taking that same core message of match for what matters, you know, but spinning it around in a market that is a little more conservative, where you could definitely not have the advertising campaign you have in the US. Yeah.
Well, and that leads into my next question, is kind of like, how do you determine where to go internationally? And you just touched on areas of the world that a lot of those places, right, you're being matched by a matchmaker, where you're like, a matchmaker, I don't even know a matchmaker here. Like, I have one friend who's a great wingman, but that's all I know as far as there's nothing like, I think I'm a great wingman. Personally, I'm getting it out there for everyone, but some people disagree. They think I just start talking about myself the whole time, but which is also probably true. But how do you know, it's like, well, this city's ready for us. Is it the testing that goes on? How do you determine what areas? Because you would think like, you know, Rome, Paris, some of those great cities of love, right? But talk to me about that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of science to it and a little bit of kind of like your gut. But luckily for us, we are available all over the world. So we're able to see like organically where we're working. You know, like you can see like, okay, there's a big spike in users in this particular market. So we have organic traction with no marketing support. That that's part of the decision making, you know. Then we look at being a mobile service. We're mostly mobile. I mean, we are on web, but you know, you look at the infrastructure of the market, and like, you know, well, they have access to mobile phones and Wi-Fi. So it's just like looking at the economy and ensuring that, you know, you are going to make some sort of profit from marketing in this market, you know. And then we also look at our product fit, you know. So in product fit looks at saturation of competitors. Some markets are just highly competitive and you need a lot more investment to make a difference, you know. And some markets aren't, where we can you know, really like make a big splash. So that's kind of the way we look at the when we go into a new market, you know. And then being a big company, even though we are OkCupid, we are owned by Match Group, and they do also help us to shape our plan, our international expansion plan as well, you know, to see like, okay, we see this country, there's a great product fit, you know, is a more serious intent dating culture. Like Israel, they are more serious intent with dating. They're not as casual as a US. They're more seriously intense. I think that's part of the reason why OkCupid does so well in Israel, is because they are most of the time looking for serious relationships whenever they start dating, you know. So that's kind of like our approach to going into a market. You know, some markets you can go into and spend a lot of money and you still won't be able to make a dent if your product doesn't resonate, you know. So a little bit of everything.
So Nick, one of the things we've noticed with our friends is during the pandemic, some of them were single and have stayed single, and they complain they're not able to go to bars as frequently, and some of that is changing. But do you see a general trend that you can attribute to COVID and the relationships people are having?
Yeah, you know, during COVID, we realized that people really were starting to gravitate towards dating apps a lot more, obviously, because people still wanted to have connection and meet each other. But we realized that people weren't necessarily going on dating apps now just for love connection as they were for just connection in general. But what happened is like they slowly started to get to know each other, which started this trend called slow dating. And it's still going on, you know. So the speed dating, where you go, you sit down, you spend 3 minutes, you get to know someone and you move on to the next. Now we saw with COVID, this emerging trend called slow dating, which is great because you take your time, you get to know the person. And then by the time you meet in real life, you feel like you have a stronger connection with the person than before. Pre-COVID, you know, it's like you have a few exchanges, then you meet the next day. With COVID, you really had to get to know somebody. You know, so that was one of the I would say an advantage for daters is they had to take time to get to know each other.
That makes a lot of sense. Plus, you have to check people's vaccination status now before you go on speed dating, I imagine.
Yeah. For sure.
So you've mentioned some of the great campaigns you've done, and I look forward to being back in New York so I can see some of your ads on the subways. But what's your favorite campaign that you've worked on while at OkCupid?
Yeah, one of my favorite campaigns we launched in Israel was it was focused on our questions. So in every market, we have our questions tailored specifically for the local market because it needs to be if you're trying to match on what matters, as I keep saying, but they're tailored for, you know, each culture. And when the campaign that we ran was all about our questions, and it was an illustrated campaign. So it was still around COVID time. So we used the Illustrator and we launched, it was digital only, a series of 4 different short videos centered around the questions. And one of the questions was, do you clap when the plane lands? And that's something that Israelis do. Some love it, some don't, but it's like, you know, it stirs a little controversy. But one of the funnest questions was, during the zombie apocalypse, would you fight or flight? And then we had the zombies come out and start smashing each other. And the couple, of course, they both stuck around to fight. And that's how they connected by answering that question together. So that was fun. It was just fun. It's fun to be able to tap into the culture. And then it's fun to bring these questions to life in a really illustrative way. And we ran this campaign. It was all digital. So we ran through performance channels and on YouTube and on socials. So it was fun. A lot of fun.
That sounds like fun. I was like, you say all these questions. I'm like, see, dating is fun, or at least the dating apps, right?
You would love to be in our brainstorms. I'm telling you, we have so much fun.
Oh, I would love it. Just for the material I could bring to the podcast from that, that would be awesome. I always joke around. I was like, dating has changed. I have a lot of friends here in New York City where, dating is not to go out on dates, but to really find that. And I love that word you use, intent. I was like, wait, what does that mean? But then now I get what you mean there. It's, you also heard like during the pandemic, people doing, videos, right? Video apps or video calls. And then it's like, when do you finally meet? Like AJ said, you have to probably show a vaccination card to meet in person, and different regions are different. So yeah, it must have been, crazy. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the things that happened during this pandemic that surprised you about, like, what surprised you the most, or how did just internally you have to change some of the marketing?
Yeah, I mean, internally, we definitely had to change some of our location-based marketing. So we have some ads that will show meeting singles in different parts of a city outside. So we definitely we had to pull those down. We changed our messaging more about like, it's okay to date far from a distance, so we had to change some of that messaging. I honestly think what surprised me most, and I don't know why I was surprised, but I was, is that how we saw such an increase in usage, like where people really took towards dating. And that's not just OkCupid, this is across industry, where people really wanted to connect, and people were spending more and more time on dating apps, and that actually kind of did surprise me a little bit to see that, like, wow, people really are longing for this connection, and that, I would say, that surprised me. And what was challenging for me being global during the pandemic is like every country was at a different stage of the pandemic, so we're constantly monitoring like with this surge, this, so it was a lot of understanding like what every country was going through and monitoring like the messaging per country. So it's different in the US, and Israel was like, they're way ahead of us as far as with their combating the pandemic. So we were actually we launched a Close Again campaign in Israel, because it was back in April when Israel, they had most of their population vaccinated. So it was, just trying to manage all of the different markets and where they were with their, their COVID response. But I would say, yeah, to answer your question, that was probably what surprised me the most. Like, oh, wow, people really do yearn for connection, and I guess it's something that you would assume, but I actually now I'm like, wow, really, it just makes me look at humanity different, like, wow, we really do want to be with each other, really.
Well, yeah, and I totally agree, and I think now, Sonia, I know you've been there, you said 2.5 years, but would your job, if there wasn't a pandemic, been to kind of go international and scope out like some of the talk to your teams there? Would that be, and is that going to change for you in the future?
Yeah, I hope so. So definitely spending more time traveling, more time understanding the culture, more time meeting my colleagues. There's so many colleagues and agencies I work with that I've never met because of the pandemic. But yeah, absolutely, I would definitely like to do that going forward, and just understand like what a night out in Berlin is like, because we market heavily in Berlin.
I heard it's crazy. That's where people would have like their crazy bachelor parties are in Berlin, from what I understand. Yeah. Oh wow, that's a crazy.
And it's a perfect. Your question about like what's a good fit for OkCupid is a city like Berlin.
Yeah.
That's progressive, and that has a lot of spirit.
Yeah.
A city that's on the move. So I would definitely love to go and like visit more, and like, just really take advantage of being in this role, and just understanding more about the cultures, because dating is so cultural. It's so cultural, it's not like we're not selling Coke or a lipstick, we're not. So different.
So one of our signature questions here has to do with LinkedIn. So with your job title and background, I'm sure you get a lot of unsolicited messages on your LinkedIn. So,
I do.
What's a message that gets your attention and gets you to respond? And more importantly, what's some of your pet peeves that really annoys you when you get a message like that?
Sonia's too nice. There's no pep. She's too nice. I want to hear this one.
You know, one of my peeves is when people tell me, like, I tried to call you. I'm like, oh my God, we don't even have a phone.
That's a new one.
Like, what are you talking about? Or I've
You
called you several times. I'm like, wait, like, obviously you haven't. Or when you can tell they've inserted your name, like the font's all different. So like, okay, you could have at least tried. Like, but what I do, what catches my attention is people who can reference a campaign and then say, like, I recently saw your XYC campaign, thought it was great, or, you could enhance it by this. Those are the ones I read. I appreciate those who actually do a little bit of homework before approaching me. Yeah.
A lot of people that listen to our podcast are younger professionals or students. So what's kind of advice you have? You've been in the marketing world for a long time. What are some of the skills they need today that they didn't need before, and what you see is important for them to do for the future?
Yeah, I've been in the industry, I've been in business for a while, and I would say now more than ever, it's the time to speak up. It's the time to come with new ideas. It's the time to test. You never know who's going to be the next big influencer. You never know where the next big idea is coming from. And there's just so many ways to learn, whether it's just listening to a podcast like this, going to summits. You just want to constantly stay eager to learn and immerse yourself. Like I am now immersed in the world of TikTok, and I don't think I would have been if it wasn't for my job, but really get to know some of the products, get to know like how you can use them to your advantage, and then from a branding point, I think I would make sure, and this is something that we think about every day, but what is your brand voice? So if you are on Twitter, like you look like who are the brands that tweet really well? It's the brands that when they tweet, it sounds like it's coming from the brand and not from the person who's running their account. And that's what I would say, that if I was giving advice to my 21-year-old self is like, be bold, don't be quiet, have great ideas, and don't be afraid to take risks. Reach out to reporters, reach out to colleagues, and keep learning.
And I love that advice. Sonia, I noticed this about you from your profile. I too was a big brother, big sister, and I saw that you did that. Mm-hmm. And I did it in the past, and so have you. But I want to really talk about some of the work that you're currently doing now. You're doing quite a bit of work in Ghana. Can you please talk about that?
Yeah, so I am a native Ghanaian. I was born in Ghana, raised in America, but I'm very passionate about supporting my country and also children and development. And I'm part of a nonprofit called My Help Your Help. They're based in Ghana, but they're an NGO that supports orphanages in Ghana. So what I do is I try to build awareness of the NGO and also some fundraising efforts. But so every time I go to Ghana about once a year. I'm going in a few weeks. I get the opportunity to tour the orphanages, meet with different orphans, meet with different groups in Ghana, and different brands to help, with donations and different efforts. So that's definitely one of my passions, is just to support underprivileged kids and help them with opportunities to grow and also to provide them with tools and resources that they need to get there. Yeah.
I love that. And say the organization one more time. So people can...
My Help Your Help.
My Help Your Help. Awesome. And Sonia, I want to talk about, we do get the personal side here. We'd love to get to know you personally here. I have some dating questions too. Maybe for the whole group, I have a dating. This just came to me, so it's just like so. Talk to me about what you like to do in your personal time. What do you love? Do you love to read? Do you love to go on walks? Talk to me about that. Any shows you've been watching? People love to hear that from the podcast. That's what we get a lot of feedback from.
Yes, I do like to cook. And I love to experiment a lot. So, I tried the TikTok challenge with the feta, the big block with the pasta around it. I tried that. That was good. That was actually good. I've had some fails too, because I love to just try new recipes, things I've never tried. The other day I tried a Tyler Florence recipe. It was a double breaded fried chicken, and it really looked like a rock because I overbreaded it. But those are the things I just like to do, and I like to entertain and have my friends over and like play as guinea pigs and such. And I love sports. I'm a big Steelers fan. I'm from Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
So that's my thing. I love fall and watching football starting tonight up until Monday night. And college football, I went to Penn State, so big college football fan as well. Yeah.
Saquon Barkley, he better start playing well for the Giants. He better stay healthy. That's right. Yeah, I did the same. I can't wait. Football Thursday through Sunday. I don't get into the college much, but because I didn't go to a big school like that. But
yeah, college is
awesome.
Fun. College is fun. I have a good. It's just a different experience. Like coming from Penn State, Saturdays were huge for college football. So yeah.
Those games, right? Penn State, like the whiteout game you always see. It's like how many? It's like 100,000 people. Is that true or no?
Yeah. When I was at Penn State, there was like 80,000. That was Penn State years ago. So many people. Insane. So many people. College football.
I have a question for the group now. I don't usually do this, but I'm like, so oftentimes. So let's. Well, Sonia, your ideal date. Let's talk about your perfect date. What's a great date for you? And then I have a question about what would people's messaging opening line be in these dating sites? Because I always want to, because that's a big thing, right? A lot of people, like, you're my partner in crime. It's like, wait, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, so tell me about your, I know we're going to wrap soon, but I'm like, it's not every day we have the global marketing director of OkCupid on. So I want to ask, what's an ideal date for you?
Oh, that's an ideal date for me. During the fall would be going and watching football together. Just that's an ideal date for me. There's no pressure, just having fun. You can make chit chat if you want, or you can be distracted by the game if it's not going well, it just gives you something to do if you have that common interest. And for me, that's an ideal date. I would always recommend your first date be something easy and fun and easy to escape. So meeting at the bar for a drink, having a cup of coffee, but I don't recommend having dinner your first date, because then you're kind of stuck. So something that you can get to know the other person, but you can also just have a quick exit if you need to, or if it goes well, you can go to a restaurant and have dinner or whatever else you want to do after that.
That's awesome.
As far as what not to say is your opening line, it's definitely anything that has to do with, hey, are you up? What's up?
What not to say? That's what you're saying. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I would rule those out for sure. That never seems to work well, depending on what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. So AJ, what's your ideal date?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead, Sonia. No, sorry about that.
Just be clear on what you want from your profile. So what your first opening line shouldn't be a surprise to many people.
Exactly. I like that. What's an ideal day for you, AJ?
It's also a football game, Vincent.
No, it is not. You don't like football. That would be I'm like, if someone wants to watch football, I'm like, what? I think that's how my wife got me, and then she hated football. I'm like, you tricked me. But anyway,
I don't think football would work for me. No. I'd probably ask so many questions about the sport that my date might leave pretty early.
This is not going to work out. Yeah.
I would say it's probably for me, it's maybe like a casual restaurant or bar or coffee, something like that would probably be ideal. Or, rare occasion a tennis match is in town, that would work too. So
yeah, depending if you get. So here's mine, and AJ, you're gonna laugh at this. This is if I were single and going on a date. I would invite them to a comedy show to see me do stand-up.
Oh, man. Are you trying to date yourself?
Yeah, well, maybe that's the whole other podcast. But what I would do, I would invite them. I would say, hey, do you want to come to a comedy show? And maybe they don't know I'm a comedian. And then I pop up on stage, maybe if they like comedy, if they're a comedy fan, they'll watch the show, and then I'll pop up, do my 10 minutes, my set, and see if they like it. And that would also be my opening line. Hey, you want to laugh and go to a comedy show? And then I would try to impress them with my comedy and see if that works.
I just have to say, as someone who has gone to your comedy show, you'd have to change a lot of lines about your wife and in-laws and kids.
Oh, yeah, of course. This would be if I was single. I had my single material. This is not me trying.
Can I just
Sonia,
tell you, I went to a
date?
comedy show on a date before, and the comedian just ripped apart the date. It was so uncomfortable.
Oh no! But I would be the comedian, Sonia. I would be you'd be on a date with the comedian. Well, see, that's rule number one. If I'm taking someone to a comedy show, I'm like, sit towards the back.
Yeah, maybe the back. And hopefully, I have a friend who was a comedian, and we went to his show, and he bombed. So hopefully, whoever, you do well, everyone's laughing, you impress her, it just goes great.
That's So that would be my. Can you tell I thought about it? It's weird that I had no. Can you tell I thought about it? It's.
You've been thinking about it for the past week.
Yeah, I was like, I got Sonia. I gotta, these are questions. So this just came up. This question. The ideal date was I wanted to ask you, but not the opening line thing. But Sonia, this has been amazing. If anything new coming up with OkCupid, I know it's going to be in the new year. I feel like people in the new year are like, I'm going to get out there and date. What's happening? Some final thoughts from you and some new stuff coming from OkCupid.
Yeah, Dating Sunday, which I believe is in January, is like the first Sunday in January, the first or second Sunday in January. So look out for OkCupid. We'll do something really big on that day just to encourage daters to get out there and start dating. I look at dating apps as this, like you get in what you put out, if you really want to meet somebody, you go in there and you don't give up, you just keep trying and you will meet somebody. I feel like people go on there and then within 2-3 weeks, you get tired and you're like, I'm not meeting anybody. But I've seen with success stories, some people meet the first person they message, but it takes a while, just anything, like you're looking for a job, just got to keep going out there, and put your best foot forward. Look at your profile, make sure you have the right pictures, avoid group pictures,
Yeah.
And focus on yourself. But yeah, I would say, next year, everyone is going, hopefully people are going to be out more with more to do on dates. You can go to the bar, go to comedy clubs now. But definitely, put yourself out there. That's what I think that's great about a dating app is that you have, with OkCupid, we have all the tools to help you, and anybody has any questions, feel free to hit me up at sonia@okcupid.com. I'm more than happy to help you with your profile, answer any questions, even hook you up with free OkCupid premium to really get you started in January to find somebody. So yeah.
That's awesome. Dating Sunday. I love that. Dating Sunday. That's amazing. Sonia, this has been amazing. That is Sonia Oblitey. She is the Global Marketing Director of OkCupid. Sonia, this has been fun. Thanks for, allowing us this time with you. This has been amazing. Another episode of The Marketing Stir. That's Sonia. I'm Vincent.
I had so much fun.
We had so much fun with you. That's AJ. I'll see him soon. Thank you so much for listening. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Stir podcast by Stirista. Please like, rate, and subscribe. If you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, email us at themarketingstir@stirista.com. And thanks for listening.